we go.
Now we found each other.
Yes, now we found each other.
We were lost and now we're found.
Absolutely. Thank you, Jesus. So, welcome to the channel, you all. My name is Elizabeth, and I am your friendly hillbilly host. And we've got Sweet Tater here. She was kind of lost in the different rooms. So we're glad that we found her. Everybody's already here. We got a ton of people in the chat already. We're going to kind of slow it down some because apparently it's taken a few minutes for people to be notified that we're on. So we'll look through some of our comments and say hello. How was your day, Mother?
Oh, I had a wonderful day. I did all the things that you do when you got 3 dogs and 4 cats and a gummy kid. And so I did all that. And I watched stuff and read stuff, not books and things. I read on the internet.
All right. We've got Pingy says hi. Jessica Jackson. Hello, Yuns.
It's Yuns.
Yuns.
Yeah, that's it. You did good.
Yeah. Good evening. Waiting to watch what happens in Whitesburg stays in Whitesburg. It ain't nothing like Mayberry. Well, that's for sure. Golly. Okay, so I've gotten some new firsthand accounts recently from people. And, one thing that I think we can all agree on is that the corruption or the bad behavior has been going on for a really long time. Wouldn't you think, Mom?
What do you mean? Here or other places or
here?
Yeah, it's been going on here for a very long time. And, this might make people mad, but before I moved here, I was not from here. And my family found out that I was going to move to Harlan County. No, don't you go down there to that lawless land.
Is that what they said?
Yeah, they couldn't believe I was going to do that. Well, I didn't know nothing what they was talking about. I just thought everybody was the same wherever you went to laws,
Yeah.
But I believe that it is a little bit worse here. The corruption within the law and the justice system.
Yeah.
That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah. Let's see. Georgia Culture. She says, actually, I don't think our IP judge was in on this big bad bit power club, but Stines was at the bottom and chosen to take him out like we got you through. Well,
I guess that could be the truth.
It's a theory. I think Mickey took the snake in the grass, Judge Mullins, out because he heard the judge was having someone to do away with Stines and possibly his family to keep them from talking, keep them quiet. Well, that's
another possibility.
Pingy says, over the years, I have found that some people get involved in schmeck, not because they have an ugly wife or anything like that, just because they have a schmeck's addiction.
Well, Lord, that'd be all the men.
Well, unfortunately,
I don't understand it either because such an intimate, personal thing. You know what I'm saying? That I just.
Well, let's talk about that last comment for a second. What is addiction? We know what addiction is when it comes to drugs, and we know what it is like with drinking, and yet with alcohol.
And even with schmexual, we got that identified now.
Well, and like playing cards.
And gambling.
Well,
we're just taking all the fun out of life, aren't we? I just gone down there to the gas station buying them little old things, whatever they're called.
The lottery ticket.
Yeah, I think that's an addiction, and we
Well,
want to legalize that.
people can have an addiction to that, but they can also like to play cards. There are a couple of houses that sit in and around Letcher County that people go to, and from what I understand, some of these games, it's nothing less than $5,000 a hand. Like a lot of people, in the Murdoch case, they kept saying, "Where's the money? Where's the money? He couldn't spend that much money. He's got money stashed away. He couldn't spend that much money." Oh, yeah, they can. Oh, I beg to differ. When it comes to rugs and, other things, they can really spend a whole lot of money. And what do we have to kind of look at the changes that happened that have recently taken place over the last few decades in Letcher County and eastern Kentucky as a whole? What was the old money? It was all coal mines. The coal mines was the money bucket. Everything that had anything to do with politics, anything that had anything to do with elections, anything that had to do with employment, with living, survival, was the coal mines. And over the last couple of decades, they shut the coal mines
No, you can
down.
go outside.
They've shut the coal mines down, and so you don't have that. You used to have mining inspectors, and you had supervisors, and you had mine owners, and you had all this money and equipment, and all kinds of stuff. Like, one of the things that people used to do, so I hear, allegedly, is supervisors would come down and have some of those men dig holes, great big holes, with them big mining equipment, and they would hide other equipment, copper, wire, or whatever. They would hide all that other equipment down in those holes, and then they'd cover them all up and then say that they got robbed real big. There was all different kinds of ways that people stole, and made money. A lot of the mine inspectors, from what I understand, were paid off. A lot of the coal mines back years and years ago, decades and decades ago, they would get paid off, so they didn't get in trouble. Let's see. And now it's all rehab. Now it's all about rugs. It's all about the money. So I think that's really important to kind of keep in the back of our minds. Hello from Bristol, Tennessee. It's still cold here. Where is everyone from? I have a blessed evening. Stay warm. Wait till we get the electric bill. We may have to sell our house. Well, Evelyn, you stay warm. Yes, everybody's talking about their power bills too. Here in Kentucky, we have been fighting for years and years and years against the outrageous raises in power bills. Don't forget to hit that like button on the way in. Yes, please do. If you've not subscribed, take a second and hit that subscribe button. It's free. It doesn't cost you anything.
Now, I don't
Donna
have
Hayes. Hello from Western Iowa. Leanne Go says, Caboolture, Queensland, Australia. Welcome, welcome. Glad you're here. Hello from Hawkins County, Tennessee. Everything in Virginia is starting to thaw out, so it should be a big muddy mess in no time. Yep.
Yep, ours is thawing out too. I'll be glad.
Our kids have not been to school since before Christmas. So I think they'll all be going back to school tomorrow. I hope, anyway. Hope everyone is staying warm. Yes, yes. Just getting back into Somerset, Kentucky. Been in Letcher County this weekend. Well, glad you're home safe. Let's see. Stacy says Indiana. Tess, Rogersville, Bristol, Virginia, Tennessee. All right.
Just a bunch of hillbillies.
Yeah, that's right. We're just a bunch of hillbillies. Donna Haynes, 28 degrees right now. Sheesh.
I got this little thing. You sit here. Here, I'll show you this side of it. See it here? And then this side's got a light. Yeah. So you don't want to shine it in your eyes or anything like that, but you get it back from your face. And you let it, I set mine sort of to the side because I don't want to look into it with my old crappy eyes. And it makes you happy.
That's right. I'm glad that, does it work?
Yeah, it helps.
Good.
But you got to sit down in front of it, and I guess the act of sitting down in front of it, you would piddle around with your hands and do something. So maybe it's two things working.
Yeah. Well, that's good. Cece says trauma is generational, men and women.
Yeah, I think so.
Jessica Jackson.
It's a state of mind. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's like patterns that you've learned because of that trauma. And so those are the ways you would raise your kids.
And we can also throw in there that power is generational. And
inherited power is the most common.
Absolutely. I think law enforcement all over eastern Kentucky and southwest Virginia are like the bottles of beer on the wall. When they get taken down in one place, they get passed around to the next. Absolutely. They start off at one department, and then if they mess up or whatever, they will let them, oftentimes they will let them resign. And so it will stop an investigation.
20 bottles of beer on the wall. 20 bottles of beer on the wall. You take one down, and what do you get? 19 bottles of beer on the wall.
There you go. There you go. All right. But, and so that's what they do. They go from one department to the next, to the next, to the next. And they never really have to pay any consequences, or their investigation usually doesn't get completed in whatever internal investigation was going to happen into what behavior they were called out on. Let's see. Donna West says, I agree with Tater. I'm not being all the man. I think that was a typo. I'm sorry. So let's see. We were talking about the power and the corruption in Whitesburg and the fact that it has been going on for a very long time. I forgot to turn my ringer off. There's the school telling us something. I don't know what they're going to tell us, though. So let's see. It's been going on for decades and decades and decades. And one of the things that I wanted to ask everybody, do you feel like maybe Mickey Stines was trying to take out the head of the snake? But this is my thing with that. I don't think that there's ever, you can't never cut the head off because it just grows another one right back. Ain't that kind of the way that it happens? The game stays the same. The only thing that changes are the players. You know what I mean? Go ahead, Mommy. What was you going to say?
Well, when you cut the head off, you've got a horizontal layer. A snake is vertical. And so when you get up to the head, if you cut his head off, then you get this horizontal layer right there. Nobody's in control, and they jostle around and kill each other and fight or take. Oh, I'm sorry about that word. They get in this battle, and eventually somebody is the head.
And eventually you end up with maybe an altercation like what you see took place at the courthouse.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying. You don't have any way of knowing. There's something weird going on out there. I'm telling you. If I sound paranoid, I probably am. But I don't know what it was that was weird going on there.
Now I said it last night. I have kind of changed my opinion on the paranoia that we saw Mickey have in that dash cam footage of him going to the jail. I originally, every time I saw that, every time I heard him talk, it just resembled so much of the math, abuse that we've seen so much of around here. But I don't think it just resembled that to me. I wasn't saying that he was necessarily on drugs or anything. That's what that behavior and that paranoid mentality was reminding me of. But since we have heard the new interview with his lawyers discussing his stress, the lead up to the incident that happened, the lead up to the deposition that Mickey went and testified in, that was probably the height of it. That was probably what he was so stressed out about, because he knew he had to go testify at this deposition. And if
he'd already done it, didn't he?
Yeah, he did it 3 days before this incident happened. That's what I'm saying. I think that all of the stress and stuff on him, I think he was worried about what he was going to say at that deposition. And I think it just kind of boiled over after he went and had this 3.5, 4 hour long recording that they were recording his answers, right? He was supposed to be answering under oath. It was going to be whatever he said was going to be used against him in any way that they could. It's a civil lawsuit. That's the point of it, right? And what did his lawyer say? He said he was afraid that he was going to say the wrong thing and potentially that he already had said the wrong thing. So, if there was a bunch of other stuff going on at the courthouse, if there was all this bad stuff going on, and other people were involved, which is how it's looking, everybody's wondering, well, what did you say? Hey, Mickey, what did you say? What kind of questions did they ask you? Did they ask you about me? Did you say anything about me? That these are instances that may happen in a situation like that. I mean, we're just speculating, of course, but let's see. CC says trauma is like throwing a rock in a pond. It ripples onto generations. Poor community men couldn't care for their families, etc. And now you have poor community women and men who are on the rug abuse in this area is what has taken over now. Poverty is still here. And think about it. If you've got this many people getting caught and being accused of sexual abuse on women and females, it just in general in this area. Think of all the ones that aren't caught. Think of all the ones that aren't coming forward. You have to use a little bit of common sense here and realize that, even with the Benfield stuff, there were rumors. They said there were rumors that the women heard. So that means there were other victims that this was happening to. Jay says finally caught y'all live. Good, 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 good. Absolutely. Look here, LS. If one witness unalived or passed away of an alleged rug over OD, why wouldn't another witness to Schmeck's shenanigans worry or feel threatened? And maybe there was a threat. Absolutely. And think about that interview. I mean, I think there was so much said by his lawyers. Or his lawyer, the man, Bartley. I think Mr. Bartley said a lot in that interview. I think that they really need to look more into Jennifer Hill. I think that they really need to look more into Edison Banks, who is no longer here. He passed away, in November? He passed away after this happened with Mickey and the judge. You have to remember that when Edison Banks was getting sick and his health wasn't very good, and he was losing his position in the courthouse as the Commonwealth attorney, simply from the inability to be there. His medical, his health, his physical health was not allowing him to keep his seat at the table, so to speak. And it was his live-in aide who he said was recommended by a friend. Well, whose agency did she come from? That's who that's one thing I'd like to know. Who was that friend that recommended her to you? And I think an investigation into stuff like that would be very called for. I can't believe it wasn't ever called for by anybody. And we have a couple things that came out on X. And I'm just going to read them. They are, it's 4 different posts from a female, and she has written about some things that have happened down here at the courthouse. Now, I don't know. Let me see. I think this one might be the first one. I don't know. But I'm going to read it. If the Attorney General truly wanted to make a difference for those suffering in our community, he would not have let someone like Taylor Pratt, who was caught with some rugs from the very vehicle of the Commonwealth Attorney Edison Banks, walk away with just a special prosecutor from Bell County. This isn't just about one incident. It's about the lives shattered in its wake. The same Taylor Pratt who was accused of breaking in to someone's home was allegedly trafficking drugs to vulnerable individuals like Sabrina Adkins and Jennifer Hill, involved in Letcher County Courthouse brothel. These are not just names. They are people with stories, families, and lives that were upended by addiction, fueled by those who were supposed to be helping them. The number of lives lost or ruined because she was allowed to continue her destructive path after her arrest is a stain on our justice system. Instead of facing the full weight of the law, Pratt benefited from what seemed like a proactive layer provided by the appointment of a special prosecutor. But who did this really help? Not the community, not the victims, but perhaps only those in positions of power or those with connections. The Attorney General's decision to involve a special prosecutor from Bell County has left many of us feeling that justice was not just delayed, but denied. It didn't help those fighting to recover. It didn't offer closure to those who lost loved ones. Instead, it appears to have shielded corrupt judges and lawyers, further eroding trust in our legal system. It's hard for me to be vulnerable. I've asked for help countless times. Despite my personal struggles, I've always supported women victimized by the court system in Eastern Kentucky. My story needs to be heard to shed light on the corruption here. I'm passionate about charity work. Helping others is my joy, but the system always undermines this. My home was ravaged by floods with no aid, while others who weren't even affected were given FEMA funds. Unemployment issues led to financial strain, and Judge Mullins' associates from Letcher County made her life worse by breaking into her home and spreading rugs. I've seen too many pushed into trafficking to serve agendas linked to Governor Andy Beshear. She apparently had an encounter. It says my encounter with Rusty Webb, connected to local power figures, ended in my harassment, and somebody put something in her drink or something like that, allegedly, with no justice served. Instead, I was jailed, separated from my family, and faced corrupt legal proceedings. Women here face the R word and trafficking, often ignored. I hope sharing my story helps protect others from the fate of Sabrina Atkins and Jennifer Hill. An outside audit of local government spending is desperately needed for transparency. Letcher County uses organizations with confidential informants to engage in illegal activities they want to keep untraceable. They do this through the purchase of gift cards. I hope someone takes the time to investigate this because it could open a whole door to tackling the rug and schmecks trafficking. And one of the things that she mentioned with this is the nonprofit groups. She says, sorry if you can't keep up, but this is the last time. I know women in my area who've been on ankle monitors, pushed into favors for favors. And yes, they've also been informants. NGO, which means a non-government organization, paid lawyers. And about that lady Pratt from, I don't know what group she's from. Well, I'm not going to read that. Let's see. Let me go over here to this other one. Okay, now this I did kind of want to share with you all. All right, this is a little video that we're going to watch. And it kind of makes a lot of sense.
Shocking was when they revealed how much money the Democrats had spent on the election and how much money was spent on activist groups. It's like more than $100 million, right?
Yeah, there's expansive government funding of politically oriented NGOs.
Yeah.
NGO is one of those great terms, like non-governmental organization. All right, like what the hell is that?
Right. What is that?
And,
tell me. I don't know.
Well, it's sort of a charity, but it
Sort
of, but most of the time it's a political entity. It's an entity with a political agenda. But then it's funded by the government in a very large percentage of cases, including the NGOs in the censorship complex, like the government grants, the Science Foundation grants, like direct State Department grants,
Yeah.
right? Direct money. And then, now you've got an NGO funded by the government. Well, that's not an NGO.
Right.
That's a GO.
Right.
Right. And then you've got a conspiracy, like with censorship, then you have a conspiracy because you've got government officials using government money to fund what looks like private organizations that aren't. And then what happens is the government outsources to these NGOs the things that it's not legally allowed to do.
Like what?
Like censorship.
Okay.
Like violation of First Amendment rights, right? The government. So what they always say is the First Amendment only applies to the government. The First Amendment says the government cannot censor American citizens. And so what they do is, if you want to censor American citizens, you're in the government. If you're smart, you don't do that. What you do is you fund an outside organization, and then you have them do it.
Boy.
Right. And that's what's been happening, right? And
that's like hiring a hitman. Like, it's not okay to murder someone, but you can hire someone to murder someone, and then you're clean.
Yeah, and if you want to solve a murder, it's not enough to find out who the hitman was. You have to find out who paid the hitman, right?
Right.
You want to work your way up the chain. And so a lot of this traces into the White House. The best defense the companies have is that a lot of this happened under coercion, right? Because when the government puts pressure on you, like it might be a phone call, it might be a letter, it might be the threat of an investigation, it might be a subpoena. It could take many forms. But when the government does that, it carries, that's a very powerful message. It's like a message from a mob boss, right? It's like, don't you want to do me a favor? It's like, yes, Mr. Gambino, I do, right? Like, I like my corner store. I'd like it to not catch on fire tonight, right? And so there's this overwhelming hammer blow of pressure that comes in. And by the way, even when the government doesn't talk to you directly, if they're funding the organization that is talking to you, then it's very clear what's happening. And so you come under incredible pressure. And so the whole kind of chain, this whole chain of governments, activists, universities, and companies was corrupted. And then on top of that, people in the companies, in a lot of cases, made a lot of decisions that I think they're probably increasingly starting to regret.
Did you hear all that, Mom?
Yeah.
You got any?
No.
Comments?
A lot of times I'm sure I know what they're talking about.
Well, I didn't play that for anything political. What that reminded me of was all the nonprofit groups that we have around here, and what nonprofits or for-profits, ARC is a for-profit facility, but then you've got these other nonprofits that are very active in Letcher County, and you have to kind of understand how a nonprofit group is kind of structured. Ones that aren't really very funded, aren't funded very well, like when they first start, they don't have a whole system set up where they have employees and stuff like that. They can set up their hierarchy in a to where they use people who are independent contractors. So you're like a 1099 employee. And so that's how they end up, in my opinion, because I pulled some of the IRS records for some of these nonprofit groups, these great big ones that have big setups. They don't have any of their people that on their records that are paid. So you can't follow, or at least I couldn't follow the money. It made it very difficult to find out where any of the payments for these people come from. So it's not really well documented. So you end up having situations that can really be ripe for money laundering schemes. And that was kind of what we were getting at when we were reading the audit, the Letcher County audit, a couple weeks ago. Let's see. Kathy Newport 1. Hello from southeastern Georgia. June, since coal-fired power plant were taken offline, but we're still having to pay for them. Yeah, we're talking about the power bills.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Let's
I
see.
just decided not to look at mine until winter was over.
You're not going to look at it until winter's over.
Yeah, I'm on a budget, and it's it's all automatically paid every month. So I don't know how much I'm using.
All right. Well, here, say something while I go let this dog in.
Oh, yes. Well, you have for-profits, and that's people that are going to make a profit above and beyond making the place go. But a nonprofit, you can't have anything left over after you pay everybody. Now, you can even have a salary yourself. I don't know how they work that out, but most of them are salaried in some way.
Mm-hmm.
So nonprofits can be kind of difficult to work with.
Well, when you include or when you bring in Medicaid, I remember hearing on some of them news channels back 10 years ago, there was a man who was kidnapped and they held him, and he was this rich millionaire and had a couple medical equipment businesses or something, and they held him hostage in a big place somewhere, warehouse or something, and they made him sign over. They made him sign over like everything he owned, his house, his cars, everything. He was horrendously victimized. They beat him, tortured him. It was awful. He barely got out of it with his life. But even though he was such a victim of some kind of violence like that, in the end, where they had investigated this being done against him, they found where he had been overcharging Medicaid for his business. And he ended up going to prison for Medicaid fraud after he had been they held him hostage for months and months. And he almost, I don't know how he lived through it. But the government sure didn't care when it came to Medicaid fraud. They were taking him down. So I think where the government may not care about some things, when it comes to Medicaid fraud, they're coming after you. And so that might be one of the good things in this situation. They may look a little closer because of that. White collar crime. What is that? Do you know what white collar crime is, Mom?
It's a person that commits crimes that doesn't have to get dirty.
It's usually a financial crime. It's usually
what I said was right.
That's right. It's usually something that's done in documents, payroll, fraud. They white collar crimes aren't like you're not sticking up the gas station down the street.
I guess those are blue collar crimes.
Well, I guess so, yeah. But so if you don't have, and think about this now, if you've got a hillbilly run police department, or I hate to say that, I don't mean that to sound in a derogatory manner, But if you don't have investigators or people who are trained to recognize that kind of stuff, then I don't think a lot of it gets caught. What do you think?
Well, education is where it's at. If you have like a police force or firemen or a bunch of nurses or whatever, librarians, teachers, if you want them to change how they're doing things, then you need to educate them how you want these things done and give them the reasons why.
That's right. That's exactly
And most
right.
people will just go right along with you. So it's really the way to invest is in education. I've always said that, and I still say that. We're run by degrees, and the fact that you go to school and you get a degree, you don't have to say what you got it in. I got a degree, and it means something. So education does mean something.
Yes, it does.
This dog here is a killing me. She's got this clinging going on. She's so sad, and down the road we go.
A diamond in the stick says, I don't know about Jenkins, but Letchers don't have school tomorrow. They've called it off in Letcher County again. Blows me away.
Well, it's supposed to snow a little bit for 3 hours, right around midnight.
Oh, okay. They moved from state to county to city in all the surrounding counties here. Kentucky Bluebird, that's what they do here too. Let's see. Bird Dog says, I think the judge threatened the Mickey. Cindy from sunny South Florida says, I still stand by Mickey, feared for his family because he knew too much and was telling or getting ready to tell. Well, I'm going to come out and tell you what a former employee of the jail shared with me. Now, this was many, many, many years ago. So this was before Mickey. This was before any of the recent jailers. Okay, so this means this was a very long time ago this happened. So he said that he went to go take one of the female inmates to go do the laundry. It was laundry duty or whatever. And I'm paraphrasing what they shared with me. Said that the girl did her job, did whatever she was doing, and said that whenever she got done, she came over and just bent over in the room and was making herself ready. And he was like, what are you doing? And she was like, what? This is what the laundry duty is. And he was like, pull your pants up. He said he was just mortified. And I asked him if he ever said anything, if he ever asked anybody about it or said anything. And he said, I was afraid for my job. He said, apparently, he said, and I didn't want no part in it. I didn't want nothing to do with it. And so, that means that there was okay, well, what does that mean? Y'all tell me. Does that mean that there was
that there was stinky stuff going on?
So there was stinky stuff going on for a very, very long time.
Well, maybe it's always gone on.
Well, prostitution pay is the oldest career on earth, ain't it? So you would think if anywhere there's power and control,
there's a possibility that will occur.
Yeah. And we also have to remember it is a sexual activity is a normal part of life. You know, I know for me, a
Well,
mom, it ain't, but for us, it ain't. It may not be, but
a lot of things go on with that sexual activity that go on with your hormones and your brain and all that. So you know, a lot of things are satisfied through the sexual gratification. A lot of
well,
things that are intimate to you, you know. So it's a natural drive.
it is. And I'm sorry, but there are a whole lot of dirty old men out there that, and unfortunately, there are daddies and there are papas and there are brothers and there are uncles and there are sons and our nephews, and we love them, right? And most of the time, family tries to cover for the flaws of their loved ones.
Well, let's not get into that. I can't hardly.
Talk about cops drinking and driving. Look at Karen Reed case. Yeah, the Karen Reed case is just, there's so much involved in that case. You know,
Is that the one? Which one is that one?
well, her boyfriend was a policeman and they were out drinking one night. And, you know, nothing ever good happens after midnight with alcohol. It just usually doesn't. Nothing good happens. But they were out drinking and she dropped him off at a party, an after party, and at
Oh, and
another.
he got snowed in and died.
Well, they said that she backed into him when she dropped him off, but she did. I don't think she did it. I don't think she had anything to do with it. I think they all were drinking. They were all drunk. They all got in a big fight for whatever reason. They knocked him out and they left him in the snow. And you know, and then they I think they purposefully framed her to take the blame. And when you have the ability to craft the narrative and your narrative is the only one that's gonna be believed, you know, they're not gonna question you. Look at the 3 men cops with Sandra Birchmore, the brothers and their supervisor. They were all grooming. And one thing that we have to also remember that's a part of all of this is there's a process that's called grooming that usually takes place before anything, tawdry ends up happening. There's a process there, just like where some of these women have said that they've that Ben Fields allegedly, which he pled guilty to, but they said he was propositioning them. Then he said, then he talks her into basically PIMPing her to his uncle, talks her into that. So, and she goes through with it, and the uncle pays her. It's in the documents. It's in the suit. The uncle paid her for that. That's trafficking, y'all. And then we've got people who are finally starting to come forward and reach out to these bigger networks, these bigger news networks, and they're starting to say, hey, I've had this person send me girls.
Well, okay.
Well, okay, so we also see a bunch of these cases in the national news, like up in New York. There's a whole bunch of that going on with celebrities. Take the celebrity out of it. All this is our own local celebrities going through the same thing, same kind of power, the same kind of position, the same kind of protection. The orange turd is going to cut all your power bills in half.
Well, I'll take it. Come on, whoever's going to do it. Mine's way too high. But you know, I'm glad I don't have to get up and make a fire every morning.
Yeah, I wish I did have a fireplace. But I like propane. Since I've lived in this little house, that's all we use is propane, and I love it.
Yes.
Kentucky Vibes says Kevin was already unalived, and Mickey was still worried about someone retaliating. So somebody else is who he was, is what Kentucky Vibes is saying. I think there's somebody else out there he's worried about retaliation too. I don't think Kevin was the head of the snake. I don't. I believe it's somebody else.
Maybe he was the fourth rib on the right side.
Well, I think
I'm funny, Elizabeth.
I think Edison Banks is a lot. I think he was in all of this up to his eyeballs.
Well, maybe he's the 10th rib on the left side.
Justice Seeker says, I honestly think it was an act. Honestly, Mickey was acting.
I thought about that too. Entered my mind. And I watched the video several times. And I still don't know what I think.
KB says a lot of people have said he was having a psychotic episode from pew-pewing him. Well, I will say this. Even perpetrators go through a trauma. Like if they pew-pew somebody or if they nay somebody, they still have a trauma response the same way a victim would. Only it's going to be different, of course, but they're still going to have some kind.
It'll still work on their heart and lungs and organs the same way.
Right, unless they're like a psychopath. But we're not doctors, so we're not diagnosing nobody. Trudy Francis says, I'm not seeing the live chat anymore.
Well,
look and see if it says hide or show. Maybe you accidentally hid it. Mickey said, Elizabeth, it could be that Mickey, I need to stop all this corruption in his mental state, and his mental state made him do it in the wrong way. Well, I mean, that's a possibility. Or, I mean, that's possible. Mickey could have finally said, enough's enough. I'm going to sacrifice myself to end this.
The day is here.
Today is the day. You know, he could have. Or he could have thought self-preservation. We're all guilty. We're all going down. I've got so much to lose. You know, only Mickey knows if he was doing anything illegal or not. You know, we don't know. I have no clue if he was doing anything wrong or not. But he knows if he was doing something that was really if he wasn't doing a thing, why wouldn't you just go ahead and go with the civil suit? Take your lumps, take your article in the newspaper and go and hang out on the Tennessee lake, and retire. Go enjoy your retirement. Let all this go. You know what I'm saying? If you didn't have anything to hide, if you didn't have anything to cover up, why not just let the civil suit happen, retire, go on down Tennessee and hang out?
He was already not going to run again. And he had enough time in to retire because I asked him when he told me he wasn't going to run again.
Mm-hmm. I think there was a lot more to it, because if there wasn't, all of this doesn't make sense. Why let all that pressure get to you? Why have all that stress if you don't have nothing to hide, if you didn't do anything wrong? And somebody, several different sources have said that he was seen at night, like in the middle of the night, pacing outside back and forth on different occasions. And
People do that when they're talking on the phone all the time.
I do. I'm a pacer bad. I can't sit down if I'm doing something, if I'm on the phone, if I'm talking, if I'm in a meeting and I can be on my phone. I'm pacing back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. Let's see. Christy A. Painter's daughter says it's kind of like that with Watergate. It opened things up, but not everyone deeply involved got taken in what really happened. It helped, but I'm sure many slipped through. Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
That was a horrific time. That was one of the first scandals, big time scandals. I was innocent to then. I didn't think that anybody in that kind of a capacity would do anything wrong.
Well, tell us what it was like. Tell us what that was, because a lot of us weren't there. I wasn't born.
Well, it had something to do with spying on the different parties.
Oh, okay.
And so it was election time. So they were spying. Nixon was being elected. Then he was elected. And he resigned because they were caught up in spying on the other party. And I don't remember which party it was, to tell you the truth. And they had all this video and they got caught and they got really busted wide open. So he had to resign.
Okay. It's been a long time.
Yeah, it's been a long time ago.
Terry Scott says, I think the judge wasn't going to go to bat for Mickey, and he got mad and unalived him. Mickey was going down because of the other case. Mickey's not crazy. No, he's not. He knew enough, remember, he knew enough not to say anything incriminating in that car ride to the jail. Everything that he said was very, I think, do you think he was acting with the saying like, what are you doing now, boys? Or do you think he was really thinking that they were going to take him in the woods and pass him up to somebody else?
Well, you don't know. You don't know. If he made a plan, if he made a plan, he would have thought that he would act that way during the drive. I don't know. No, I don't think he was acting. I think he was in deep shock.
Well, I just thought of something. What was he saying? He kept saying, who are you passing me over to? Who are you passing me off to? He wasn't necessarily afraid that those officers in that car was going to harm him themselves. It sounded, now that I think about it, it sounded more like he was afraid they were going to give him to somebody else that was going to do it. And that's one thing that, that's really the only thing that I fear. Like, as a person who, talks about a lot of this stuff, the only thing that I fear is that you might have some really dirty people that would pay somebody else to do something to you. And that goes for anybody, that goes for anybody. That's a danger for anybody, of course, but that's what I think about. And it sounds like that's what Mickey was thinking about. How many times have people in these positions of power handled their problems in that manner? I mean, it's kind of the same thing. Why would Mickey think that that's what they were going to do if they've never done that before? It just makes you think, makes you question it. Here, I'm going to mute Mommy's microphone. He's barking. This situation could be whatever it will be if the cops plea. We never know. This is crazy. I'm interested in seeing how it will all play out. Yeah. I'm in Texas for now. Well, good.
And even after all of it's all out in the open, or ever how much it's going to be, we still might not know.
I know. Justice Seeker says, I have been in Leslie County Jail. This was making me think it's an act because Mickey has transported prisoners I know from Letcher County to Leslie and vice versa. It is a sign saying detention center. So what they're saying is that he knew the route to the jail. He had been.
But they were taking a route more in the country, I think. I think there were 2 ways you could go.
There's 2 different ways. No, I don't have the deposition. If anybody ever gets their hands on it, send it my way. Wild Man's Mom. I love that. I agree. He only took out someone that would open up a vein of corruption that may be generations old and strong. In my opinion, he saved his family by his choice. Well, it may be. But I don't think Kevin was the head. I think that you have to have several different positions for an actual ring of like an organized crime ring. I think you have to have several different positions involved in the, in bed together, so to speak. And maybe the judge's position was the legal head, but he wasn't the top judge in that courthouse. We've still got a circuit court judge in that courthouse. There were other people. My question is, who else knew about all this? Who else is involved? And I think if they looked more into Edison Banks and all the misconduct going on surrounding him and all of the rug charges that were not prosecuted with his live-in aid, I think that angle also applies in all of this. Let's see. Janine says, I don't believe Mickey was oblivious to the corruption all around him. I wonder if he was involved. He was seen as the weak link. Well, I said as soon as this happened, when we started looking at all of the Ben Fields stuff, I'm not convinced that the judge knew that Ben was doing what he was doing, but I think Ben saw whoever else was doing what they were doing, and I think he thought, I can do that.
Well, somebody had to show him how.
Well, that's a good point, Mom. Somebody had to show him how, unless he just figured it out himself. Do you think he was? I don't think he was smart enough to figure that out himself. I really don't, because if he was that smart, he would have never spoke to that investigator from the Attorney General's office. But then again, that could have been completely, maybe not. That could have been orchestrated. Listen, you're gonna confess to this. And you're going to go down and you're going to keep your mouth shut and you're going to take your lumps.
Could very well be.
Let's see.
Oh, Lord. Turn me off.
All right. Let's see. Louis says, if Mickey was afraid of the public, he would not be a trustee. Well, who does that leave? If Mickey was afraid of the public. The trustee was Ben Fields. Ben, whenever he was taken into the Letcher County Jail to serve his 6 months, he was made a trustee because his charges, or the charges that he pled guilty to, were a Class D felony. So he was able to, I guess, apply or be appointed as a jail trustee. And from what I was told, the trustees, their cell doors were never locked. And I don't know how many of them there were. And they said that they were also given visits. So apparently they must have had some special privileges with their visits, because they said that he didn't get any more privileges than any other trustee got. Which I pushed back on, y'all. I pushed back. And I said, I don't know how well I would trust this person, Ben Fields, to be a trustee after what he'd done. I mean, he did plead guilty to perjury for swearing out false warrants of escape on a woman that the R word was involved in. You know what I'm saying? Not really a big trustworthy person in my eyes. But, you know, and you also got to remember what happens at the workplace. Y'all end up becoming friends. So, usually. Now, some people's workplaces, they can't stand each other. But for the most part, if you've been in a position for a long time, and it sounds to me like all their family was involved. You got to remember Ben's sister was over drug court in Jimmy Craft's courtroom upstairs. So everybody was connected. Everybody was involved. Everybody was eligible to be at the water cooler at the right time or the wrong time to get the dish, the latest dish. Funny how everyone's retiring all of a sudden, or resigning, or hopping off to Mexico. Maybe Mickey
worked there and I could resign. I would resign too.
Yeah.
Get away from it.
Linda Brock.
Because you'd be old if you was retiring, and you don't have time for all that hassle in your life when you get old. You just want to live and be yourself.
Linda Brock says maybe Mickey knew what happened to people when they didn't go along with the good old boys. Maybe he had seen it himself or participated. He could have gotten his family away and exposed it. Well, you know, one of the things I meant to say the other night when we looked at that chief of police from Elkhorn City, that female, the one that you had in class, Mommy.
And I liked her a lot.
And you liked her a whole lot. And I'm not saying there was anything that she was bad cop or anything like that. I'm just saying she knew better than to drink and drive. She knew better than to take money or pills that were not hers, that didn't belong. Lord have mercy, hillbilly sneeze. Bless you.
Boy, I sneeze like that all the time. I don't get colds and viruses. I throw them out before they have time to get embedded.
There you go. But one of the things I didn't say the other night when we looked at those cases of hers is she wasn't one of the good old boys, y'all. One of the things that I've noticed with some female deputies or officers, when they are the only female amongst a whole department or county of men, They get the big head. They tend to get the big head, and they think they are one of the boys. And they're big and bad until they find out they're not one of the boys. When it comes time for the boys to have their back, or when it comes time for one of the boys to support that female in some way, shape, or form, it usually doesn't happen. They are not protected in the same way. The chief of police in Whitesburg was found passed out in Taco Bell drive-thru. Well, he didn't.
Well, that was a long time ago.
Well, so was hers. But my point is, he didn't have no consequences whatsoever. She got suspended and fired. There was a difference. She was the chief of police. So was he. Now there was.
But all he was passed out.
Yeah. Well, she had a one car accident, so she wrecked her own car, but she didn't hit nobody else. There is a difference. Right. There is a little bit of a difference. He was just passed out in Taco Bell drive-thru, but still,
there's not a lot of difference though. Once you say that she didn't hit anybody,
the outcomes were different, but the behavior by the police officer, the chief of police, was the same. Yeah. So, females are not treated the same. They're not valued the same, no matter how much they want to believe they are. They come to find out in the long run through their own learning the hard way. Thought I seen that DD left town. That's one of them. That's one of the players in Whitesburg. Hello from Pennsylvania.
Oh. Yeah.
Elizabeth, your mom is too funny.
I think I'm funny. I do.
You are. This type of corruption is all over small towns in the USA. Rugs have taken hold of good people, and corruption in the legal system makes it worse.
Yep.
Don't get me wrong, in every closet they have a skeleton. He may have seen what he as a father.
Well, I think all of that is part of it.
Look, our see you later says Daniel was Pratt's attorney for a bit. I believe that with everything in me. I'm sure the judge already knew what was said in that deposition before Mickey even got home that day. That's a really good point. And if that's true, then that would be, that's exactly how Whitesburg is. Okay. The gossip mill in Whitesburg and the courthouse is something, it's a whole monster that I've never seen before. Blew me away. But that would also mean that the entire situation on that deposition, that means somewhere, some way, there would be somebody in that physical geographic location, or somebody who just knew about it, that was also connected all the way here. You know what I mean? And what have I said? The legal communities are very, very small circles of people. So you better believe it. Ned Pillersdorf, the lawyer that filed this civil suit against Mickey, he's had a whole bunch of cases in Letcher County. He has cases all over the state. Same way most other lawyers do too. So they are very familiar with each other. And it wouldn't surprise me one bit if there was a mole. Wouldn't surprise me. Did Stines try to visit the lawyer before or after he unalived the judge? Well, I heard that he went to see Daniel before he went to the courthouse. But, we've heard from other people that they ran outside and gave him a big old hug after he did this, trying to tell him to be careful that there was a pew-pew person around in the courthouse. They never dreamed it was him, that he had just walked outside from doing it himself. So it's possible. Nobody talks about Congress's place in the opioid crisis and ensuing insatiable appetite for more rugs. Well, I'm telling you, it's all in this grant money. That's where you have to follow the money from, is all this grant money that it's federal grant money that comes and starts up these nonprofit groups, and there's absolutely zero oversight of the management of the financials. It's all self-reported. There's not like this big agency somewhere that comes in and says, make sure that they're doing the right things. You know, it's very easy to just not tell the truth about several different aspects of your organization.
Uh-oh.
I got you muted. In my opinion, he made a choice to open up something he no longer could ignore. Yep. Seems like these men have a proclivity for 12 to 14-year-old girls. Proclivity is too nice a word. You're right, June. You are right.
That's that young, because their bodies are really beautiful and their skin is so tight, and a lot of times they think that they're virginal, you know, and so they're drawn to those. Now, in this situation down here with the drug court and the women there, that situation didn't apply. But they looked for the youngest ones, but there wasn't none of them innocent and beauteous, you know, with tight skin, and they were a long way off from being virginal.
Yes, the ones that were in these programs and the house arrest programs were not what you would see in minor cases. But look at the cases that were with minors. Whose buddies are these? You look at the fire chief man. That girl was under 14 years old, or 14 or under. She wasn't the first one that he did that to. That was just the one that was caught, allegedly. Now, he was told he was Ben Fields in those messages and stuff. He told the girls, the victims, that his uncle could help her. He could help her with your charges because he's so connected. Well, who was he connected to? I heard he was connected very well with Edison Banks. I've heard a lot of people were connected very well with Edison Banks.
Well, it was pretty common knowledge that that guy fiddle-diddled with the young stuff.
Well, and you cannot ignore the fact of what he took into his house as an in-home health aid, what he gave his vehicle to her to transport all these rugs. Where were all these rugs coming from? Would it not be common sense to maybe investigate the source of those? You know, the only person that I ever saw that actually tried to prosecute her was Mickey Stines. Mickey Stines tried to prosecute her. He called the Bell County prosecutor. They wouldn't answer his calls. It was in the newspaper. I mean, this information was reported in the newspaper. The only person that was interested in prosecuting her was Mickey Stines. And I think that says a lot too. Years ago, we had a sheriff deputy that was picking up ladies of the night on duty and threatening them if they didn't do stuff, he would arrest them. Oh yeah, I've heard stories like that a lot. he did walk over to a lawyer's office before it went down, and the lawyer wasn't there. June says Edison had been in power too long. And let me tell you too, this is an example of the man's entitlement and his stubbornness, maybe is the right word. I'm not sure. He did not go to work. He was in office for 3 years while he was sick, that the newspaper reported he hadn't been to work in, like, I think it was less than 12 or 18 months in over a 3-year period of time. So all of these cases at the courthouse should have been backlogged or something, but I don't think cases just got delayed. I don't even know what the outcome of it was, but I'm sure it was not a very good impact that it had on Letcher County's criminal justice system.
Well, he
So
probably had an assistant.
He did, and he had a great one from what I know of. You know,
Well, he might have carried on.
Michael Watts is one of the assistant. He's
great. I really like him.
I do too. He is Mike Watts' son. Mike Watts is our circuit court clerk. Well, his son, Michael Watts, is the assistant county attorney, and he has worked as the assistant Commonwealth attorney. So he is like the backbone of the prosecution's offices, in my opinion, downstairs and upstairs. He knows it. He's familiar with both and with all of them.
The daddy or the son?
The son. The son.
I think
and he's
always. I like both of them real well.
I do too. I don't have nothing bad to say about neither one of them. They've both been, from what I've always been able to see, they've been very, very, very fair people. I mean, I have said several times.
Nature. They're very considerate and kind.
Well, I've said several times that I've been disappointed a lot in my life when I thought certain people would do the right thing when it mattered, and they didn't. Well, Mike Watts Sr. is one that I can say I have seen do the right thing when it mattered, and probably wasn't a popular thing to do, but he didn't disappoint me. He did the right thing when it mattered. And I've seen Michael also do the right thing when it mattered. So, and that means a lot to me. You know, that's my personal experience. Somebody else may have a different experience, but they have always been good to me. So, all right, let's see. Sounds like Kentucky. What I meant to finish say? Oh, okay. Yeah, let's see. Richard Boyd. Holy crap, an art commercial just popped up. Technology.
Well, why do you have to sit in my lap?
Okay, let's see. So glad I caught you live. Love watching your live streams, even when I have to catch them recorded. Well, glad you're here, honey. Glad you're here. NGOs provide food pantry locally at churches also. Yes, we do have a whole bunch. So, I pulled up, let's see. I went to Yelp, and I just wanted to see what nonprofits were in Letcher County. I don't know if it's going to let me in there now. Yeah. So this is not a complete list of nonprofits, but let's see. So this is just a Yelp website. It's got Appalachian Horse Project, Club 180 Ministry, Mending Hearts. These are community service / nonprofit groups. Letcher County Tourism. Now that is a very big nonprofit group here in Letcher County that is run by Missy Childers, who is Don Childers' daughter. And Don Childers owns Childers Oil and all of the double quicks in this area, from what I understand. And so that is a very, very big project.
They do a good job.
Yes, they do. Letcher County Tourism. Smile Faith Appalachia. That's a very big program. That's for dental needs for people in this area. They help anybody and everybody. It doesn't matter what age you are. That's a huge one. That's got a bunch of people that come from Colorado and Montana and places out west, and they're amazing. You've got Apple Shop, which is what my mom DJs for. Roadside Theater, House of Prayer and Way of the Cross Ministries, Hope, Hunger First, Tri-Cities. Let's see, God's Pantry, that's a food bank. Campbell's Branch Line Fork Community Center, Pike Unite, Second Harvest Food Bank, AmVets Thrift Store, Henderson Settlement, June Apple Records, Headwaters Television. So the that has changed from more of an environmental nonprofit focused on the North Fork of the Kentucky River. Now they've changed it to Headwaters Television. So it says it's cinema. So I would say they've probably partnered with Apple Shop. That's my guess. I don't know that. I'm just guessing. Southwestern Virginia, Second Harvest Food Bank, Christian Appalachian Project. It said earlier there were 33 nonprofit groups in Letcher County. Harlan,
What's that map over there for?
it shows where they're at. See, that's the food bank of Wise County. It's in Big Stone Gap.
Well, I know there's not that many dots over there.
Let's go. Well, the one where I said where I saw there was 33, it was on a different website. It wasn't on this one. This one shows us, and then each page, I guess it must change it. See?
Oh, I bet that's what it is.
It just shows you the dots that are on that
On
page.
that page, yes. That makes sense because there's so many of them.
Mm-hmm. Laborers for the Harvest, Estill Development Alliance, Bell County. And so, but these are just few. These aren't even in Letcher County. That was Bell County and stuff. But
And there may not be any money going through some of them. Only just little bits enough to keep them running.
well, a lot of people around here are learning how to get the money out of these grants. You got a lot of new grant writers around here, you know. You got a lot of programs, a lot of organizations that are learning how to write these grants but then the people who have the purse strings have to be responsible for that money, and they have to manage it in the way that they put in their budget, their application, their grant application that they said they were going to do in their budget when it was approved. But in my experience, a lot of that stuff doesn't happen. You don't have anybody on the backside. Like, they have to put all this stuff in it up front. But then once they get the money, it's real easy to doctor documents. It's real easy to make stuff look like it's real, like it's not fraud. It's real easy for people to do that. And you just don't. And what happens? What is it that we're our common sense tells us? If you don't have policies and procedures in place to prevent or to even recognize waste, fraud, or abuse, you think everybody's being honest when nobody's looking? How many people you think ain't got their hand in the cookie jar when they know nobody's looking, when they know they're never going to get caught? LS. It's a bipartisan problem. Absolutely. No political one way or the other. Office crime. Yep. Projects, programs, grants, organizations, nonprofit. That's a big, deceptive title, or whatever you want to call it. Says it's nonprofit. So people think, oh, well, there's no money there. Oh, no. All they have to do is put in them applications, but they have to put it in the application whenever they send it in for the money, for the funding. Okay, well, here we're going to put together this project, and this project is, of course, going to have a project manager. So we're going to request this much money for project management salary while this grant, and then, you know, in the budget or in the application, you put in there how often, how much, you know, all of the details. So when they approve that application, then that money has to be spent like you said you were going to spend it. You can't say, oh, well, we got a little bit more money over here than we didn't realize, so we're just going to take this. And since this person's already getting paid on this project, but they've also got a salary from this unrelated project, well, we're just going to take their salary and we're going to let them get this salary over here for both projects, even though they're unrelated. I know it's kind of confusing. If you don't know what your contract says and you're an independent contractor, you better know what it says, because a lot of people then get abused by their employer. It's called wage theft. They take advantage of people in their work. Let's see. I read an article that the horse organization got a large grant or something. Need to check. They all get grants if they apply for them, of course. But there's so much money out there, and especially in the treatment. When the opioid crisis hit and they put all this money into treatment, they opened up the peer support specialists to be able to charge Medicaid. You know, like the way that I saw things that I didn't quite agree with. So this business is going to hire you as a peer support specialist, and they're going to pay you $12 an hour. But then whenever they go and bill Medicaid for that, they're going to bill Medicaid $50 an hour, but they're only paying you $12 an hour. Does that make sense? So then your employer who hired you, this big medical group, Rehab, whatever they are, then they get the difference there. You see the difference? I mean, and I'm not saying that it's absolutely $50 an hour, but it's a whole lot more that they're charging Medicaid than what they're paying their peer support specialists. But stuff like that's dirty, I think, anyway.
Well, I think it's time to go to bed.
I think so too. I think so too. D.E. Wright says, I've been seeing ARC ads on the regular since being on this channel. It's probably because we talk about them. Have y'all ever opened your Facebook after you told somebody about a nice warm pair of socks or something? I'll open my Facebook and there'll be an ad for the same socks I
For
was
them nice warm socks.
telling my friend about. Yeah.
Well, I guess I'll go over here and retire.
All right, Mommy. Well, you have a great rest of your night. Sleep
I
tight.
got to go to the doctor tomorrow, the eye doctor.
Okay. I'll see you tomorrow. Bye.
All righty, bye.
All right, guys. Yeah, it's something. I don't think that Mickey cut the head off the snake. I don't believe that. I believe that another one will grow. There'll probably be 3 of them grow out the hole. Do you think Mickey will get out on bond? I don't know. I don't think that they'll set him a bond. I think that too many, I think there was too big of a reaction against what that woman judge said about giving him a bond. And she decided not to. She turned around and changed her mind. See you later, says Banks was a Lions Club member too. And that's a big deal around here, the Lions Club. You know, a whole lot of these clubs haven't lasted. Well, most of them only have very old, elderly members left. There's not very many young members anymore that I've seen. We have a Lions Club in Neon. There's a Lions Club in Whitesburg. There are very, very active Lions Clubs in Letcher County. I don't know how many of them there are, but there are several that I'm aware of. And it said that Taylor Pratt was a member of the Lions Club. So it's all about the money, y'all. It's all about the money. Look into what Edison Banks was doing back in the late 90s. Thank you, Butch. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And you got to remember who the players are. Who were the players in the 80s and 90s? Who were the players in the 2000s and the 2010 up to 20? And now who are the players? Who all knew? Who else knew? Because I guarantee you, it's getting ready to come out. More and more is coming out. More people are coming forward and telling about their own experiences. And it's not just victims like the one we talked about tonight. Former employees are also coming out and sharing their experiences. All right, y'all. We will see you tomorrow. Remember, we've got memberships if you want to be a member. Click the join button. Send me an email, hillbillycrime@gmail.com, and ask for the Discord link. I will send it to you. We're going to do a members only live that will be a little tutorial on our Discord. we will do that soon. And I'll see you all tomorrow evening, 7 o'clock. All right. Well, stay warm, stay blessed, stay safe. Peace out, Girl Scout. Bye.